Welcome to Class 9 History, Chapter 2, Socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. In the late 18th and early 20th centuries, the French Revolution spread the ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity. People across Europe began to challenge the power of monarchy and imagine new kinds of societies. Thinkers and political leaders proposed different visions for change. Liberals supported a constitutional government with laws protecting individual freedoms, but they wanted voting rights only for property-owning men. Radicals pushed for universal adult suffrage, social equality, and women's voting rights. Conservatives wanted to preserve traditional institutions like the monarchy and church, but accepted slow and cautious change. Industrialization brought large factories, cities, and technological growth, but it also created poor working conditions, long hours, low wages, and unsafe environments for workers. Social divisions deepened between wealthy industrialists and struggling workers. Workers began to demand better pay, reduced working hours, and safer workplaces. Socialism emerged as a belief that wealth should be shared equally, and that production should be owned by society rather than private individuals. Early socialists like Robert Owen and Louis Blanc promoted cooperative communities and government-supported workshops. Utopian socialists dreamed of ideal societies based on cooperation, though they lacked detailed plans. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels introduced scientific socialism through works like the Communist Manifesto. They argued that society was divided into classes: the bourgeoisie, who owned wealth and production, and the proletariat, who labored. Marx predicted that the working class would one day overthrow the ruling class and create a classless society with common ownership of the means of production. In early 20th century Russia, Tsar Nicholas II ruled as an autocrat. The economy was mostly agricultural, with peasants often working in communes called mirs. Industrialization had begun, but workers faced harsh conditions. Political groups formed, including the Russian Social Democratic Workers' Party, which split into the Bolsheviks, led by Lenin, who wanted a small, disciplined party for quick revolution, and the Mensheviks, who favored gradual reforms. In 1905, peaceful protesters marching to the Winter Palace were fired upon by Tsar's troops in what became known as Bloody Sunday. This sparked strikes, unrest, and eventually led the Tsar to set up a Duma, or parliament, though he kept much of his power. By 1917, Russia's involvement in World War I had caused massive casualties, food shortages, and public anger at the Tsar's government. In February 1917, strikes in Petrograd escalated as soldiers joined the workers. The Tsar abdicated, and a provisional government was formed, sharing power with the Soviets, or workers' councils. The provisional government failed to end the war or address land reforms. Lenin returned to Russia with his April thesis, calling for peace, land, and bread and all power to the Soviets. In October 1917, the Bolsheviks seized key locations in Petrograd and stormed the Winter Palace, overthrowing the provisional government and establishing the world's first socialist state. After taking power, the Bolsheviks redistributed land to peasants, gave control of factories to workers, and withdrew Russia from World War I through the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk in 1918. Civil war broke out between the Reds, or Bolsheviks, and the Whites, who opposed them, but the Bolsheviks eventually won, forming the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics in 1922. Under Joseph Stalin, the USSR launched ambitious 5-year plans to industrialize rapidly and collectivize agriculture. While this transformed the economy, it also led to widespread hardship and repression. The Russian Revolution inspired communist movements worldwide and contributed to the global division between capitalist and socialist blocs in the 20th century. This concludes the explanation of socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution, providing you with a complete, exam-ready understanding of the chapter.